Welcome everyone to this weekend Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for April 21st to the 23rd of 2017. All right, so this weekend we are sort of slowing things down actually. We're going to have a new moon next week in Aries, but we do have the sun shifting into Aries here on Friday. So coming into the week, we may feel a bit of a vigor or a bit of a clarity if you've been feeling a lot of the watery energy these past couple months. But as we go through the rest of the weekend, we are likely going to start to feel a bit of lowering energy, which is the ending phase of this last lunar cycle right before we enter the new lunar cycle next week. But again, it will be in Aries. So after this sort of receptive time or finishing up with this, it's different. It's more of just allowing the energies to die down and then, listening and maybe getting some rest and relaxation, things like that, to gear up for, I think, what will be a much more active new beginning next week. All right, so the moon's going to be in a couple different signs this weekend on Friday and Saturday in Aquarius. Maybe we'll be feeling quite free-spirited, freedom-loving, individualistic, maybe progressive, concerned with the community, maybe friends, the world at large, things like that. This first half of the weekend, we do have Venus squaring up to Saturn exact for the last time, particularly on Friday. So this is like the final integration of whatever you've been feeling in terms of maybe restriction with relationships or restriction with your values or the things that you enjoy in life. So this is all for us to have essentially more of a long-term perspective and more responsibility in those relationships or with those things we value. So we'll be finishing that up. That's already been an orb for like the past 2 weeks. So the last aspect with Venus square Saturn will be on Friday. And then as we get into Sunday, going into next week, with that more lowering of energy balsamic phase of the lunar cycle, Mercury does start to trine up to Saturn. And so we could be feeling quite grounded mentally on Sunday going into the rest of the week, good for productive things or anything else that does require a good practical mind. All right, so let's go and look at this in more detail. All right, so let's look at this Friday first. The moon will be finishing Capricorn quite early for most of us. Most of us will be feeling more of the increasing Aquarius energy even earlier in the day. So this is great for both Friday and Saturday, great for anything that does require a bit of freedom in our life, freedom of being who we are, individualism, and anything that does require innovative thinking, progressiveness, and connecting to things larger than ourselves, which can be maybe spending time with friends or online, socially online, perhaps social media, things like that. Anything progressive, humanitarian, giving, connecting with our community. But if it is more internal, maybe getting into some science or, getting into that type of innovative aspect of ourselves. And yeah, we can bring that energy into whatever it is we're involved with. I think just a bit of eccentricity of being who we are at the same time of innovative thinking outside the box. All right, so let's look at Friday in terms of the aspects. There's that Venus square Saturn finishing up, because Venus has recently slowed down and gone direct during the square with Saturn. It's been really dragging this out, and it's been an orb over the past 2 weeks. So this is the last exact aspect, which usually means some sort of final integration. Final lessons learned, you could say, but it's not always conscious. It's just we've had enough experiences of this sort of patience with relationships or patience with the things we value that we're now, familiar with it. We're now integrating it into our being. So I think we're willing to do this to a degree. And I think anything on Friday that does require patience and responsibility with relationships and values can go very well. And just remembering too that this is about a long-term thing here. Saturn helps us enjoy relationships and things in our life in a long-term sense, that it's about long-term gratification, right? Long-term pleasure versus short-term pleasure. And so I think with that perspective, which again, I think collectively we do have to a degree, can be a good way of working with this energy. And then as we go into next week, probably feeling a bit of lifting up slowly but surely lifting up if you have been feeling more of the restriction, of those relationships and values. All right, so that's Friday. We do have some easy aspects with the moon here, mostly opportunities. There might be just a bit of opening or flow about the day, with the exception of a square to Mars. And this isn't major, but I just want to mention if you are feeling throughout the day or second half that maybe there's a bit of clash, you want something, the ego is really strong. Maybe, taking a step back, chilling out for a second collectively, or maybe just emotionally, right? Can be good with that square to Mars. All right, but nothing major there. As we get into Saturday, the moon will still be in Aquarius, and we do get a bit of a pause from the aspects for a second. So still great for that progressive energy, freedom-loving side of ourselves, individualism. But the moon does go over Neptune the second half, so it could be a new beginning about rest and just tranquility and wanting a bit of that. Again, we'll start to enter this balsamic phase as we go through this weekend. So the energies are already lowering anyways. And I think with this conjunction with Neptune, we could be starting a new chapter with that in our life. Some of us might be resting. Others might just be more easygoing, wanting a bit of that. And all in all, just being more accepting, I think, is the name of the game on Saturday. All right, accepting, maybe a bit of rest. All right, then as we get into Sunday, this is where we start to have, first of all, shift with the moon. So let's talk about that. So on Sunday, the moon's going to go into Pisces, really adding to the ending phase of this cycle, as you can see here. The moon's getting closer to the sun, which will be a new moon next week. But Pisces, as you all are very familiar with at this point, is about the letting go, the surrender, the allowing the energies to die down, being receptive. Even though, our life force, what we're focused on, we're going to be, as I said, much more direct, and we might have a bit of vigor and a bit of clarity in many ways with the sun shifting into Aries this weekend. However, with Mercury, Venus, and then the moon on Sunday in Pisces, it still is this, and then this ending phase, it is this sort of still receptive time. So I think Sunday can be very good for spiritual activities, anything that does require imagination, maybe creative pursuits, things like that, psychology, inner exploration, spirituality in a sense of understanding more about ourselves psychologically and spiritually and all this. And again, just having more surrender in our life is fantastic. Now, do keep in mind, too, that the ending phase of the lunar cycle is essentially the same location we had the last new moon, all right? Because this whole last cycle was Pisces. And so this is kind of like we're refamiliarizing ourselves with it, and we're asking ourselves, what about Pisces? What about these qualities and energies of life that are about surrender and letting go? Do we want to bring into the new cycle? Because the balsamic phase is about endings, and it's about letting things go. So there's likely some things about Pisces, maybe more of the extremes of Pisces, like illusions or wanting to escape or wanting to be very inactive and not in this world. Maybe there are some qualities about that we might become aware of on Sunday that we're like, I want to let this go. I want to release these older energies, these past energies. And what I want to bring into the new cycle is more of the acceptance, the receptivity, the intuition. And I don't think it'll be very conscious, but it's like that. And I think that's a great way of working with Sunday. What can we let go of to create space for the new beginnings around the corner? All right, so along with that, on Sunday, Mercury will be trining up to Saturn. So there is a lot of this mentally grounded energy going into Monday. Good for practical things. Good for anything that does require work, patience, persistence, things like that. Remembering that Mercury is retrograde, though. So it is a time of, rethinking, redoing. That's all weekend long. But, if you are feeling like moving things forward on Sunday, or you are feeling really grounded, remembering that it's great to be flexible and adaptive throughout the process. And we do have Mars squaring up to the North Node going into Monday as well. So when we usually don't feel this very personally with the North Node, but as an undercurrent to the day, if there is any actions you feel like you may want to take about your life path that might require you to take some steps or initiate some things that might be uncomfortable to do or might require confidence or courage to do, maybe it's considering taking those actions. But with a bit of a space though, because it can also be if you're feeling too much Mars, like you really want to come out of the gates for that life path, just running out of the gates. It is sometimes good that if the ego is really strong there, that those personal needs are really strong, to maybe take a step back, be as patient as possible with the process. Okay, so it can be an overemphasis of Mars or an underemphasis of Mars. And I think it's about balance, taking action, and maybe challenging ourselves to take that healthy action towards our life path. But again, we may or may not feel this. This is more of an undercurrent, but I did want to mention it. All right, so that is the weekend. Generally, the way I would sum this up is Friday and Saturday is Aquarius, great for progressiveness, individualism, innovation. And that's with the sun shifting into Aries, which is going to be the theme of the next lunar cycle next week, which is more about vigor, activeness, being direct. We could, in fact, be very direct, very expressive this weekend, even though energies are dying down. Most of the dying down energy is emotionally, right? That's with the moon. So allowing that, allowing this to be a time of reflection or rest, especially on Saturday with all of this, Neptune energy, and then even, especially on Sunday with the moon in Pisces, right? Getting into that receptive approach, meditative or rest, whatever it might be, and listening, right? Listening to what is being cleared. What is it that we're releasing to make space for the new beginnings around the corner? All right, and then on Sunday, Mercury trine Saturn, a bit of grounded practical thinking, and maybe some steps we can take towards our life path that are healthy and balanced. All right, so have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on Monday.